Okay, thanks a lot, Nick. Welcome Heinz Pommer for the second time. He gave a talk when we were in Diorama, but this time he's talking to a public that's where everything he says I think is going to be credible. And I think, yes, you come from near Munich, Bayern, and I think I'll leave everything to Heinz to explain for himself, if I can just get it straight.
As the public is quite small, I try to do it without the voice amplifier. So if there's any problems, I can put it on, okay? So that we don't run into problems we had last time.
Only here at the back.
Okay. So I start with a preface. So, I don't know if I mentioned it. After my talk in 2017, I left London with Jim Fetzer's book in my luggage. I had the laser pointer right here. That one, America Nuked on 9/11. Not thinking at all about possible consequences. At the airport, when I had to open my luggage for inspection, the unfortunate book was right on top. The lady had a moment of shock. Then she called for the armed airport security. I was released about 1 hour later after a round of polite but detailed questioning by 2 airport intelligence officers in a small windowless interrogation room. For them, I once again let out my views of a small nuclear bomb being detonated on 9/11. But what is a small bomb when we talk about the most powerful weapons on Earth? So, helpful is a categorization leaving out the super bombs or the mini or micro nukes. So we have the classification that a big nuclear weapon creates a pyroclastic horizontal flow of hot gases with a diameter of 8 kilometers approximately. This is the Stoic Sedan event 100 kiloton yield. Today, medium weapon creates a flow of 4 kilometers, a 10 kiloton weapon. Shot Grable, 15 kiloton, has the same power as the Hiroshima blast, and it starts at 160 meter detonated with a spherical distribution pattern and then growing as soon as it's hitting the ground, being reflected upwards and creating this mushroom cloud and this funnel pulling the hot air up. So a pyroclastic flow of 4 kilometers. A small nuclear weapon is 1 kiloton approximately and will create a dust flow of about 2 kilometers. Okay, back at home, I was contacted during the summer by a French and a Swedish professor, both giving me important additional insight concerning the observed side effects on the WTC destruction site. But they also increased my doubts concerning the accuracy of my presentation destruction model last year. Suddenly the small nuke model was no longer sustainable in full, because there was an additional devilry going on the WTC site, neglected by most of the researchers and providing an excellent base for disinformation or spunky theories. I sorted these problems out and would like to present today not only the enhanced model of the physical destruction of the WTC, but also the hypothetical weapon based on solid nuclear physics, which could easily do the job, specifically not being a bomb. It's short 12 chapters we have to go. So, the first question is about energy. What is energy? Energy allows you to work and is measured in joule. Your work power is based on energy and depends on the amount of energy you have, the speed of the energy release, and the focus and direction of the energy. So this focus energy released on 9/11, we have several energy sources. Is this readable from behind? Is the text readable from behind?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. We have the impacting planes, jet fuel, explosives, and electromagnetic weapons which are suspected. And of course, the sum of these energies must be greater than the energy needed for the tower's destruction. It is not important which of these is critical, just the sum of these energies must be greater than the energy needed for the towers, and it must explain the side effects. As I've said, energy is measured in joule. For example, 25 grams of chocolate contains 500 kilojoule. This energy is released slowly and heats your body during several hours. 25 grams of chocolate would be fatal if the energy would be released in 1 millisecond. Here you have the detonation of 8 kiloton yield, an underwater nuke. This is an experimental vessel sorted out by the US Navy, and this picture reads very well that if a nuclear shockwave is reflected, it is not longer spherical, but it creates a vertical spike, in this case rising 500 or 800 meters up. So 8 kiloton produces a spike of 500 or 800 meters. Here in full umbrella, water dump, 8 kiloton yield, detonated.
Could you have the mic on, because when the trains go on
Okay. Now an important note on energy and speed. The relationship between energy and speed is not linear, but to the square. So if you have a bullet traveling with 250 meters per second, it is absolutely lethal. And if it has 1%, it's ridiculous, because 100 times the speed is 10,000 times the energy. So the same object, the bullet, interacts totally different. The same goes for stones skipping over the water surface. A stone responds totally different to a water surface when it has a certain speed. It is pushed upwards again. It cannot penetrate the water surface because of its kinetic energy. This is, a bit physics, but it's important to know, and it's important to understand this for this lecture today. There are neutrons, which are an atomic particle, but if they are slow, they are called thermal neutrons. They have the speed of 2.2 kilometers per second. They are called slow with 2 kilometers per second. Like a slow stone on the water surface, the slow neutron, the thermal neutron, can penetrate the nucleus of the uranium. The fast neutron, nonetheless it is a neutron, with 14,000 kilometers per second, bounces back like a stone on the water surface. So they are useless for fission. So you have the uranium nucleus, which is being split in two parts, producing fast neutrons. But these fast neutrons cannot start a chain reaction if there's no moderator present. So they have to be slowed down before they can be useful for another fission process. We will keep this in mind, and I have to repeat this. So, Chapter 2. Nature. Nature as the best mentor. The Swiss 9/11 researcher Dr. Daniele Ganser often repeats in his lectures, if you need a break, go into nature and observe things, relax, let a positive energy flow through you. I remember as a child observing a bee which escaped drowning, and it saved itself right there next to the nozzle. This is an example for a seemingly impossible safe place next to the upshooting material, but it will not be hit by the falling water droplets. So it can stay there relatively safely. And a fountain forms this typical pattern of a constant water pressure in the nozzle, which is converted into kinetic energy and momentum. Where a fountain is a free fall of an object which has a constant initial speed upwards. Alright, So far the definitions which we need. So what we do observe. On 9/11, curiously, we did not observe what the media told us. We did observe the destruction, the pulverization of 3 buildings, South Tower, North Tower and Building 7. And also we observed that we had 3 thermally active zones below each tower, which I can also call cooking plates, where they were active for 3 months. And a small valley was created or was discovered later here. Some say it belongs to the 9/11 event, some say it does not. But at least we have the thermally active zones and destroyed towers. So this is the pulverization of the North Tower, which we observed as it is. This picture contains no information whatsoever about jet fuel or airplanes or terrorists. It's just a picture of an erupting building, a catastrophe in a city. And not all people see the fountain in the photo above. So if this is a fountain, there must be a pressure chamber below, and if these particles are in free fall, we have this typical structure. People normally exclaim, that's the proof Osama bin Laden did it. I see the collapse of a building, the exploding jet fuel and the air pressure pulverizes everything. That's just the way things must look like. So what do I see is not what explanation was given, but as was mentioned with this Skripal case by Nick, what explanation was given is more and more into doubt, and what do I see is more and more coming to the front. Chapter 4. What did we hear? I remember a holiday trip to the volcanic island of Stromboli in the Mediterranean Sea. It is a beautiful hiking trip, going from the paradise below to the open flank of fire up there. On top I witnessed several heavy explosions, water steam being trapped inside, just violently breaking through the rock and the ashes. I also witnessed soft eruptions, which are characterized by continuous gas jet flows from a magma chamber. These gases of these eruptions, displayed here, diverge quickly. They form a cone of fire. So they diverge here, forming a cone of fire, and the soundtrack, if you analyze it, starts and it slows slowly down. But we have also a second sort of eruption where the gas jet is fired upwards and the soundtrack just starts, keeps its level and falls down. And I play this example. The typical volcanic gas eruption sounds like this. That's not my video, but it's the second one. So that's the directed gas jet eruption. And physicists like to simplify things. They say, well, I just take the exit hole and the height of the gas column, and I will get the volume of the ejected gas volume, and I know how much material is hidden in the magma chamber. Surprisingly, if you are dealing with 9/11, as an audio example, acoustically the roar of the North Tower is not distinguishable of a focused gas jet eruption. So I have not tampered with the soundtracks. Don't look at the pictures, just hear if you can compare these samples. I have lengthened the gas eruption from the volcano to have the same period of time. So that's All right. So, the conclusion. The eruption of sound of gas jets ejected and powered by highly fluid magma chambers from the center of the Stromboli volcano is identical to the eruption sound heard during the destruction of the North Tower. We have violently, vertically upshooting gas jets. And a side remark, at the memorial pools we can see a sort of eruption channel artfully displayed in the memorial pools as a pit. The exit field is approximately 10 times 10 meters, and my assumption was always this is no coincidence, because I have observed many times at 9/11 the Emperor Nero phenomena. The killing psychopaths love to tell us the truth as philanthropists in pieces of art. The same is true, by the way, for Building 7, where we had this exceptional heat concentration, which caused, according to the official declaration, the collapse of the entire building. We have exactly at that spot a small water fountain located now, which might well be a radiation shield. Silverstein Valley. I've displayed here the situation without the tower. So this is the south, the north tower, and Building 7, and here we have located Silverstein Valley, this strange glacier valley which was discovered a few months after the event. In a detective story, the true villain is introduced to the reader as being the most unsuspicious, innocent and uninvolved character of all. The presence of the extended depression, some 30 meters away from the towers, running parallel to the old subway tunnels, has been sold to the public as being a natural geological formation, a glacier valley, nothing more. It must be said that the formation, the rock formations inside this valley were held as a proof for a nuclear bomb. Even I did. But then I was contacted, and over again the people repeated, forget about the valley, it is too far away. It is not in the center of the North Tower, it is not in the center of the South Tower. You cannot display this, you make lightly displayed features, but you cannot correlate this to the 9/11 event. Because could the rock have been evaporated there, like many claim? No, because the valley is too far away from the towers. Could neutron radiation of a nuclear bomb melt the rock 30, 40 meters away? No, it is too far away. Neutrons can penetrate only a few meters into the rock. It is a real nightmare to explain when you start digging into Silverstein Valley. In mid-2017, a professor from France mailed me, "The energy in the rock explains everything." He has written about 9/11 being a nuclear process, not specifically a bomb. Nonetheless, he assumes that Silverstein Glacier Valley is only a geological formation. It must be said that he was exhorted by the university for his attitude, a sought prohibition of teaching and exemption for service, but still active because the students stood up to defend him. So he made a calculation, this is probably not readable, so he asked in his calculation what power was emitted, what power P was emitted into the rock during 3 months. And he comes to a number of 10 to the power of 15 joules, which corresponds to 240 kilotons or 8 kilotons per tower as a yield, which is enormous. How did he arrive at this number? He took the entire surface of these cooking plates here, summed them up, gave them a certain depth, and asked how much energy is needed to heat the rock, even if the rain is pouring down, even if the firefighters are hosing water over it, if forced convection and conduction and radiation takes place, how much energy would be needed to heat the rock artificially? Well, and it's 80 kilotons per tower, over a period of 3 months. And I'm now showing the question, so the apple of this core, Silverstein Valley. We are now in this depression. It is a semi-liquid granite or a glacier valley. Curiously, you will see that people were busy here scrubbing and cleaning the clean rock with brushes. And these vortex formed structures. It was it a downwelling or a leaching process? So the debate goes on next to the towers. Also here they are busy with hammers, pneumatic hammers to remove the rock and carry it away. Is this a vitrified vortex or water whirlpool? Is this a settling down into the cavity or the meltwater valley?
The unusual conditions exposed on Tower 4 is because it's something that isn't seen anywhere in New York City. The scale and the sculpting is so unusual and different, it's something that we don't get to see on the surface of the ground in the places that we all go.
The first time that I went down there, I had no idea what kind of scale it was going to be like. It was just so large in terms of area and in depth. It was quite impressive. These are actual, very large sort of whirlpools that have been carved out both deep down into the ground and then swirling around in a large whirlpool area. Most of the glaciers, the big glaciers that have come across this area came from the northwest, from across New Jersey. Along the way, the glacial ice picked up all of these boulders, cobbles, red silt, and so on, and carried them across what is now the Hudson, and used them to scour out these features in New York City, and then wound up depositing them both on the site and then further downstream behind us in Brooklyn.
Tower 4 is the deepest part of the excavation anywhere. The natural scour portion of Tower 4 goes down 100 feet below sea level. The enormity of this is something that should be shared, at least to the extent that we can document it. And we had the nice article in the New York Times, and they showcased it, and everyone seemed to take interest in that.
You find these bits and pieces of sample very rarely, and so when you find them, you grab them and try and make the most of them. Now the next step is to take the data, the photographs, the samples, information, measurements, and things like that, and to take it and start analyzing it. We knew it formed actually hundreds of millions of years ago. We might actually be able to get a more precise date for when this last major glaciation took place.
Now it's really the point where the tower will rise back up out of the past and out of the glacial plunge pool. And in just a couple of months, I think we'll start to see, real production, and the building will rise above street level, and everybody walking along the streets will say, "Oh yeah, I remember there was something special there."